We got about 2 hours until we get to see the worst football game of the season with the Patriots putting a beat down against the New York Jets. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about all the news for today, and then we'll answer some trade questions. We'll submit some starting lineups. So Ricky Pearsall is going to be playing in week 11. I'm going to get my flex rankings out for y'all tomorrow morning. I will add Ricky Pearsall to the rankings on the site right this second. But yeah, this is really big news where obviously we have not seen Ricky Pearsall in a very long time at this point. I'd probably not want to get him in your lineup right away, but I mean, it is encouraging as well that you are going to have specifically Brock Purdy playing as well this week. But Britton Strange gets in a limited practice, so maybe Strange will be coming back soon. Parker Washington did not practice on Wednesday, but got in the Thursday practice. Brian Thomas gets in a Thursday practice. Aronde Gadsden, it looked like he was going to be missing some time, but not anymore. Gadsden is just A-okay, 100% good to go. He gets in back-to-back full practices on Wednesday as well as Thursday. Like we said, Brock Purdy is back here. So Brock Purdy is definitely a viable streamer. If you were looking at him in comparison to what you had with the other quarterbacks that are going to be playing tonight, I would start Drake May over Brock Purdy, but I do think you could put in Brock Purdy over Justin Fields if you were somehow, some way desperate enough to be playing Fields. Maybe you have like Daniel Jones on bye, but I'd play Purdy over him. Going over to look at what we have with Geno Smith. Geno Smith not listed on the injury report. Eagles, Lane Johnson fully practices on Thursday. Thank God I have Saquon Barkley. When Lane Johnson initially got injured, I was very, very concerned, but it is nice to know that he is going to be good to go. Going over and looking at Patrick Surtain. He does not practice on Thursday, so it sounds like he is going to be missing. J.K. Dobbins doesn't practice either. So with specifically R.J. Harvey, it does look like he is going to be a must-start player this week. Now, going over and looking at what we have with our next few updates, Calvin Ridley gets in another limited practice. It doesn't really matter if Ridley plays or not. You're not starting anybody in Tennessee. Rashad Bateman, Justice Hill, neither of them practice on Thursday. Lamar Jackson does get in the official full practice on Thursday. Garrett Wilson gets placed on the IR. So as I go through and look at this, I probably need to go ahead and move Garrett Wilson even lower in our rest of season rankings. I previously had him at wide receiver 32. Now I think I would prefer having Ricky Pearsall over Garrett Wilson, to be honest. So we're going to move Pearsall up. We're going to move Wilson down dramatically. Moving over, Sam Laporta doesn't practice again on Thursday. This will be a big thing to make sure you're monitoring the Friday practice with. I think we'll put out our quarterback and tight end rankings on YouTube tomorrow. Chris Godwin gets in a limited practice on Thursday. Massive news for Godwin here being back at practice this week. Godwin's probably not going to be playing this week, but it is positive. Bucky Irving gets in another limited practice. My expectations are Bucky's probably going to be back in week 12, but wouldn't it be the most surprising thing in the world if you actually have Bucky Irving back this week? CJ Stroud is already ruled out for week 11. I have Nico Collins on my own team. I am still going to be playing him in week 11, but I really hope we get CJ Stroud back next week. Khalil Shakir gets in a limited practice. Dalton Kincaid does not practice. I would expect Kincaid not to play. Let's see if there's anything else to monitor. This is actually, okay, so Godwin practice, Bucky practice. Is there anything else? No, I think everything else is updates from yesterday, but this was actually funny. I had seen this, that Trevion Henderson on Underdog right now is projected for more total yards in week 11 than Saquon Barkley, Javonte Williams, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Ashton Genty. Trevion Henderson is currently higher, lower, 102.5 total yards. Jahmyr Gibbs is 88.5. Now, am I going to tell you that you need to go out there and you need to play Trevion Henderson over Jahmyr Gibbs? No, but I would say Trevion Henderson is an absolute must-start player tonight. If there's anybody watching this right now that has Trevion Henderson on their bench, for the love of God, put him in their starting lineup. Like right now, I am actually playing Breece Hall myself tonight, and I'm going up against the team in the Flock League with Trevion Henderson, which I'm very nervous about. Because I do think Trevion is just going to absolutely stomp on Breece Hall here with no Ramondre Stevenson. Now, I'm still starting Breece Hall. He's higher, lower, 13.15 fantasy points. Trevion's higher, lower, 14.45. But of course, if you wanted to, and actually it looks like Trevion's total yardage mark has gotten moved down to 94.5. I guess a lot of people have been taking the lower. But if anybody wanted to check out any of those pick'ems, they're always on Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is available in pretty much every single state. You can find the link in the description, comment section, live chat. It's always there. If you use code FLOCK, you'll get $100 added into your account after you play your first 5. And on top of that, you're going to be getting a gimme pick. If you sign up before tonight's game, it's going to be higher, lower, half a total yard for Drake May. If you sign up after tonight's game, it's going to be higher, lower, half a total yard for a different player for the Sunday game, which I don't know which player that is. But we got Bitter Hornet in the chat. Happy to see you, my guy. If there's anything that you need help with, whether on the site or the chat, just let me know. I'll be looking out on the chat as well. If you just wanted to ask me anything there, if you need help for tonight's game, I'd be happy to answer you. But let's go ahead and let's dive into some quick questions here. Let's look at the start sit questions, the trade questions, those first. That way we can just rip through them and then get back over to the team reviews. But this is Bear Maulings, 8-2, number 1 seed, and playing the number 3 seed to gain round for a bye week. I'm ready to go with the tight end streamer or Evan Ingram, and then Pat Frymuth or Mason Taylor. Running back, you play Brees tonight. You plan on going Rachaad White. Of course, if Bucky plays, pivot to Bucky Irving over Rachaad White, but don't expect that to be the case right now. Going over to wide receiver, you play London, you play St. Brown, you play Debo. Tight ends, I don't know which streaming options you have. If you have Loveland, I'd probably play Loveland, but I mean, Evan Ingram is okay right now. And then going over and looking at the flex considerations, I think you'd probably plan on going with Christian Watson here. Now, Azukar is trading Pickens for Mahomes and Kelsey. Right now, I can't see our team. I have Pickens and Mahomes ranked back to back. I would say if you have a garbage quarterback room and you wanted to go out there and get Patrick Mahomes and you had the wide receiver depth, I'm not going to stop you from doing it. But I do think that this is one of those trades that can kind of go either way, and it's going to be dependent on your exact team. Now, Bitter Hornet, always happy to see you here, my friend. Right now, here we're choosing a flex. I think you have to go with Chase Brown. I think it's Chase Brown relatively easily. Super excited to get Ricky Pearsall back this week, and I'm hoping for some of my best ball teams, if it's not too late, he does come through and he has a big performance. But yeah, I think that Chase Brown's going to be more so the easy start, to be honest. Now, Bitter Hornet says, grab Hunter Henry instead of Cade Otton versus the Jets with Kayshon Boutte out, or Fannin with Warren on bye. Okay, so here, a wide receiver, I'll say you're playing T. Higgins. Cade Otton's a completely fine play. Let me pull up the projections on what we have with these guys right now, because with Otton, I'm still going to assume that you have no Chris Godwin. Otton's higher, lower, 41.5 receiving yards. Yeah, you have no Kayshon Boutte, but him and Hunter Henry play a very different role. You have worse projections when it comes to Hunter Henry with receiving yards, but you have better projections when it comes to Hunter Henry to potentially score a touchdown. Henry's higher lower is 7.65 fantasy points. Cade Otton's higher lower 8.35. I would say if you want the floor here in a full PPR format, you go Cade Otton. If you want the ceiling, you go with Hunter Henry. But because you're in a situation where you just have such a strong team, I'd imagine that you are pretty much favored in every matchup you play in. So I'd probably play the floor there and go Cade Otton. But Hunter Henry could very easily have a big game tonight. Now, Indre trading Genty and Nico Collins for Jonathan Taylor. I have Nico Collins, and I would make it trade like this in a heartbeat. I mean, if Sal's watching, I would trade Nico Collins and Brees Hall for Jonathan Taylor. And honestly, I'm going to go out there and send that offer right now. Let's see what he says. Let me see. Yeah, but I mean, if you can get Jonathan Taylor, it's just Jonathan Taylor easily here, to be honest. Okay. Brees and Nico for JT. And I'll also send... Well, let's just send that and see if he counters. Okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm expecting him to reject because, again, I would say that a Jonathan Taylor side, if you can ever go out there and trade for him, almost regardless of the cost, you want to get it. Now, Panther says, should I make this trade? I know it's risky. I don't see why you would do this. Like, Joe Burrow coming back helps Chase Brown too. Chase Brown looks to be a 3-down running back at this point. So yeah, you just stick with Chase Brown. The only way I would do this is if it was a super flex league. Like, the only quarterbacks I would trade Chase Brown for would be Josh Allen, Lamar, and maybe that's about it. And Mahomes, of course. Those would be the only 3 quarterbacks I'd put ahead of Chase Brown. Now, Blake Fulbright here, running back. I think you do go ahead and you play Woody Marks against the Tennessee Titans. Actually, no, I'm sorry. You have RJ Harvey with no Dobbins. You go RJ Harvey. And then in the flex, you can go Woody Marks. And the pivot option, if you wanted to, would be Kamani Vidal. But for sure, make sure you play RJ Harvey with no J.K. Dobbins here. Okay. Now, Cool Leo. We are going to have to stream a quarterback because Jackson Dart isn't going to play. Let me make sure that we have Jackson Dart on the list of injured players on the site for this week. So I don't want him showing up in the ranks. But yeah, so you're going to have to stream a quarterback. Winston wouldn't be the worst streamer in the world. We're going to go Trevion Henderson. Rico Dowdle is the must-start plays. Kyron Williams is an easy jam. And I would go Chase Brown as well, because specifically with your team, you are so damn strong. If you have these 4 running backs that are guaranteed to see a tremendous amount of volume, you pretty much have the win on lock, to be honest. Okay. Now let's move this over to our next question. It's going to be from J Pie. Running back, it's Tyler Algier, Kyle Monangai, Jordan Mason. So it's all handcuff running backs. But yeah, I think I would go Kyle Monangai with the recent success. Tight end, you play Loveland with Tyler Ward on bye. And then down there in the flex, you have a Lave on bye. So I'd probably plan on going with Parker Washington. If the Brian Thomas plays, then at that point you can pivot over to another one of those backup running backs like Jordan Mason. Okay. Now, our next question is from J-Man, which here we are trading JSN and Ramondre Stevenson for Ashton Genty and Drake London. So Ramondre is a 0. It's would you rather have JSN or Genty and London? Right now at running back, you have Warren, Jacobs, Dowdle, Chase Brown. Wide receiver, you have JSN, Pickens, Higgins, Pearsall. So I think this is a very fair deal, and I could very easily see a lot of people wanting the Drake London and Ashton Genty side, and I honestly wouldn't fault them for it. But specifically with your team, you are so strong that I don't see there being a reason for you to make a trade like this. If you're this strong, I would just want to keep the best player with JSN. If you needed a running back, sure, go out there and make this move. But you just simply don't need a running back. Okay. Now, Bitter Hornet trading Dowdle and Sutton for Bijan and Parker Washington. With the lack of, like, Sutton right now, I know in theory is like a difference-making player, blah, 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 but he's averaging 12.6 fantasy points per game. He's the wide receiver 28 in points per game. So it's tough for me to tell you to go through and play like Cortland Sutton any given week, especially with the usage trending in the direction of Troy Franklin. And I would still put Bijan Robinson ahead of Rico Dowdle. So I think some people are going to disagree with me on this one, but for me, I would go ahead and I would take Bijan. Another interesting note with this is Rico Dowdle still has the week 14 bye. So you're going to get Bijan Robinson an extra week. A Fecal Phantom trading away McCaffrey, Waddle, and a future second in a dynasty league for JSN. In a dynasty format, this is going to be JSN. And I don't think it's that tough either, to be honest. Okay. Let's move this over to our next question, which is from the Killando, trading Worthy, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt for RJ Harvey. I think you take Harvey here, to be honest. Just with the upside that's presented, given the fact you have the Dobbins injury. I like Worthy right now is averaging 8 points per game. I don't know how I could tell you to go with Worthy. Yeah, I think you take, this is a fine, and then Ja'Cory Cross-Kamara's not startable. So that wouldn't give me any hesitation at all. Okay. So SWTX Packer says, I've gone from number 1 to almost last by trading for a better running back, wide receiver, and giving up Hurts. We still have Lamar. Super flex format, so you're starting Hurts regardless. But honestly, here, Tet to Rice, Aaron Jones to Jacobs, those points per game jumps that you get probably outweigh the point per game loss you have from going Hurts to Tua. Hurts to Tua. Tua is averaging about 13 points per game right now. Hurts averaging about 20.5. So that's 7.5 fantasy points per game. Aaron Jones right now is averaging about 10. Josh Jacobs is averaging about 19.5. So that's 9-ish points per game. And then Tedero McMillan is averaging about 12, where Rice is averaging 22. Even if you do have a decent amount of regression hitting Rashee Rice, it's still Rice here pretty easily. So I would go ahead and I'd be fine making this move even in a super flex league. But let me go ahead and send you over a free trade question just in case you have something else that you see that you like. Okay, let's move this over to our next one. This is going to be from D. Taylor for the flex. You have no Pittman, you have no Wilson, so you're just going to play Jameson Williams. Don't get me wrong, I'm not super excited about J-Mo, and I do think that he is a little bit ahead of his skis right now, but I still think he can go in that direction. V-Grid trading away Lamb for Rome and Bucky. It's a dynasty formats. If this is a dynasty league, I probably want Bucky and Rome. If it's a redraft format, I probably want CD Lamb. But Bucky being back is going to make a pretty big difference here, of course. Now, Jam trading Dowdle, Warren, Pickens for Bijan Robinson. Here, I'm going to prefer Dowdle, Warren, Pickens. I don't think the points per game gap between Dowdle and Bijan is going to be that large. Like earlier, we essentially saw somebody trade Dowdle as well as Sutton to get to Bijan Robinson, which I like that kind of move. But I don't know if I like sending all three of those players. Okay. Now, Nate Logan says, hey, Mason, hope all is well. A win this week would be big for the playoff standings. Tight end, you're going to start for flex. You go Chase Brown as well as probably Ricky Pearsall. If you wanted to play Gadsden, I'm not going to fault you for it whatsoever. He's gotten in back-to-back full practices. Maybe I'm just a Gadsden hater because I'm pissed that he's taken away the Quentin Johnson points from our best ball teams, but can you all spam the chat? Who would you all rather play this week? Would you rather, and then obviously you'd play Bucky in that last spot if Bucky were to play. I'm just assuming Bucky's not going to play. Let's ask it this way. Who would y'all bench? Would y'all bench Ricky Pearsall, Jake Ferguson, or Aronde Gadsden? Who is on your bench this week between those three players? Pearsall, Gadsden, or Ferguson? Pearsall, Gadsden, or Ferguson, who is on your bench? Okay, chat says Ricky, Ferg, Ricky, Ferg, Gadsden, Ricky, Ferg, Ricky. So it looks like most people are saying to bench Ricky Pearsall, which I'm not going to fault you. Again, I'm going to be a little bit biased. I'll be completely honest with you. I did not draft Aronde Gadsden on maybe a single best ball team this year. I have a bunch of Quentin Johnston, so I'd love if Quentin Johnston started to do something. Which it looks like it may just not be happening. Okay. Now, our next question is coming from Pedro. For the flex, you just got to play RJ Harvey. I'd play him over Metcalf. Metcalf is a much better matchup, Like, I'm starting DK Metcalf this week, and I'm excited that he gets to play the Cincinnati Bengals. Harvey, tough spot against the Kansas City Chiefs, but it's a talented running back with guaranteed volume, assuming you have no Dobbins. Pivot to Metcalf if Dobbins plays, but I'd be surprised if Dobbins did. Okay. Now, Bobby with our next question. Here, wide receiver. I'd play Worthy over Addison. You're playing Addison in the flex regardless. And then also in the flex, you play Gadsden. Okay. Now, Zed Mango is trading Bucky, Trey McBride for Puka Nacua and Zach Ertz. 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. You'd have Zach Ertz and Harold Fannin left over. Running back, you'd have Jacobs, Genty, and that's about it. Wide receiver, you'd have Puka, London, St. Brown. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league. I would probably do this because I think you're just like selling Bucky Irving at full price. And while it does seem that he's trending in the right direction for sure, you're still going to have Puka Nacua averaging 6 points per game more. So I would do this because I still think there's inherently a little bit of risk when it comes to Bucky Irving. But if Bucky Irving was back and just producing the same exact way that he did previously, then it would maybe not be as exciting. Okay. Now, let's move this over to our next question. And that trade it's a tough one. Not going to lie to you. You could very easily lose that trade. Not feeling super confident with it. Now, Mark Nomiski. Here, right now, we have Rodgers in a good matchup. I think you could play Rodgers over Goff. I wouldn't fault you for it this week. And then down in the flex, I would consider putting in Brian Thomas over Tedero and McMillan if Brian Thomas plays, which he got in the practice today. But I think you can leave that as is if you wanted. Now, you heard of us with our next question. Trading Jacobs, QJ, and Igbuka for Taylor and Breece Hall. Quinshon Judkins to Breece Hall, upgrade. Igbuka and Jacobs to Jonathan Taylor, upgrade. So we're going to go Jonathan Taylor and Breece Hall here. Okay. Let me send out a message real quick. Okay. Negatron says, hey, Mason, got an incoming offer for CMC. What do you think? Any counters, non-PPR format? Thank you. All right. And we did the math on this earlier. So non-PPR format, McCaffrey is averaging about 17, 18 points per game in a non-PPR league. Rashee Rice is averaging about 16. Jaylen Warren is averaging about 10. So while a lot of the value that gets derived from CMC is obviously the just straight up receptions, you're still in a pretty comfortable spot with the total yardage in a non-PPR format. And especially now that you have Brock Purdy back in, I would assume that there's actually a little more touchdown upside with Brock Purdy. Okay. Now let's move this to our next question. One second. Working on a Jonathan Taylor trade. I just gotta, if there's a chance I can get this, I got to. Him, okay. Now, Syntax trading Waddle for Jake Ferg. It's a league where you start 8 players. You would have Lamb, Worthy, Pearsall. I understand you need an upgrade at tight. You have running backs you can put in the flex. I'm okay if you do this. Jake Ferguson isn't exactly the tight end that I would want to be going after. Like, I honestly think I would hold on to Waddle and try to squeeze a little bit more value. I would try to go for like George Kittle. But again, like I said, I'm not a big Ferg guy. We had Ferg as that sell high candidate when you had Lamb coming back. Okay. Now, Yo Soy Fiesta trading away Caleb for Jalen Hurts upgrade, Rome to Nico upgrade, and we're paying Brees Hall to get it done. And this is a Superflex League. Leftover running back, we'd have Benson, CMC, Kamara. Wide receiver, we would have Puka, Chase, Nico, Pearsall. We had the elite tight ends. One quarterback format. I want the Brees side. Super flex league. I'm okay if you take this end. You kind of have a loaded team regardless. So, again, I think you can make this move if you want, but it is going to be up to you. Okay. Now, Stealth the Fro, running back. Oh, dear God. Or can we play more than these guys? Yeah, okay. So your wide receivers, you aren't flexing anyway. So just put RJ Harvey, Woody Marks, and Travis Etienne into your starting lineup. You could consider Kamani Vidal over Woody Marks if you want. I just do like the matchup that you have for Woody Marks going up against Tennessee. Now, Beto running back, you play Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs. Wide receiver, you play Lamb, Roma Dunze. Tight end, David Njoku with Tyler Warren on bye. And then in the flex spots, you're going to have Woody Marks as well as Ricky Pearsall. Now that Gadsden's good to go, I'd probably play. I'd probably want to bench Quentin Johnson. Hope I'm wrong, but it is what it is. Okay, let me just make sure we go ahead and add Ricky Pearsall to our weekly rankings. So I don't think he's there now. We'll get him out in the flex rankings in the video tomorrow, of course. But I need to make sure that he's out there for anybody using the site rankings from me to submit starting lineups tonight. Okay, so let me just make sure we get him added in. Pearsall, where would I put him in on these ranks? I would start Pearsall over Romeo Dobbs and Quentin Johnston. And then I got to move Quentin Johnston down considering Gadsden's health. So I'm going to put Ricky Pearsall right after A.J. Brown, Tedero McMillan, and Cortland Sutton. Real B Die says, Dynasty League, but I'm 9-1, trying to win this year. Is this too good to pass up? Yeah. I mean, even if, obviously, from a redraft perspective, I'd rather have Travis Etienne over Brian Thomas. But Brian Thomas is a year removed from being a rookie wide receiver that finished top 12 at his position. Like in Dynasty, if you can make this deal, you just simply have to go out there and do it. Okay. Now, our next question is going to be S. Powell. Is trading away Amari and Hampton and Jake Ferg for Trey McBride. Yeah, you do this deal right away. Even if Hampton comes in as a low-end RB1, Trey McBride could still be the winning side there. So I do think that you are offloading a lot of risk with that type of trade. Now, Pedrito. Here, wait 1 second. Quarterback, you play Lamar. Running back, you play Henderson and McCaffrey. Wide receiver, you play Lamb. And I'd go Nico now that Gadsden's playing. Go Gadsden at tight end, and then you just take the running backs with volume over Ladd McConkey, in my opinion, in the flex. I'd go Javonte and Jalen Warren. Now, Dylan Voss here for the flex options. You have RJ Harvey right now on the bench. You put RJ Harvey in over Tedero McMillan. And then quarterback, you have Brissett in the super flex spot. Brutal start. You probably got to leave him there unless you had a Jameis Winston you could look at on waivers. Now, C. Crick trading away Brees, London, Bowers for Gibbs, Metcalf, Theo Johnson. Brees to Gibbs, upgrade. London, let's just look at it from London to Gibbs, upgrade. Brees to Metcalf, downgrade. Bowers to Theo Johnson, massive downgrade. I'm going to go with the London, Brees, and Brock Bowers side. If you didn't include the tight ends, I think you can make the move to get Gibbs, but trading away Bowers is just too much there, in my opinion. Okay. Now, our next question is going to be coming out from Bonsai Boy. Running back, Trevion Henderson, must start name. If you like, let me make sure it is perfectly clear to anybody watching this. Trevion Henderson is about to go insane. If you have Trevion Henderson on your team, for the love of God, make sure he's in your starting lineup. I have to play against him tonight, so I'm really hoping that I am wrong here. But he is about to go nuclear. Spread on this game's like 2 touchdowns. You got to run it. Okay. Real quick. Now, this next one is, I think you start Stephon Diggs tonight as well. No Kayshon Boutte. It's not as urgent as playing Trevion Henderson. And then in your flex, I would take RJ Harvey with Dobbins not playing. Okay. Now, Jack's coming out with a massive donut. Says, hey, Mason, I've done some trades and built a squad of Achane, Jacobs, and Bucky at the flex when he's back. My receivers are JSN, Chase. Didn't want to make any changes until I was offered this. Yeah, you got to make this deal. Leftover, you're going to be sitting with Josh Jacobs, Bucky Irving, and then Rachaad White if Bucky doesn't play this week. And then you'll have JSN, Jamar Chase in at wide receiver, Puka in at the flex. You'll have the wide receiver 1, the wide receiver 2, and the wide receiver 3 in fantasy. And then you'll be able to start Jacobs and Bucky at running back. Puka on a competitive team, whereas Devon Achane on a tanking team. Trying to think. Yeah, I think you do this. You have the best team in the league. I think, honestly, you could look at maybe trading for an elite quarterback if you wanted to afterwards. I'm going to send you over some free questions just in case there's anything else that you want to follow up with. But yeah, the fact that you have those wide receivers is insane as is. The fact that you would also have additional running backs that are exciting, ridiculous. Now, Mike Starr trading away Trevion Henderson for Rome Odunze. I'm going to regret saying this because Trevion Henderson is about to go insane tonight. Like I said, like this week, I would start Trevion Henderson over Rome very easily. But there is still the outside chance that Ramondre comes back next week and then they split the backfield. So with that in mind, that Trevion Henderson could come out here and drop 35 PPR points tonight, and then when Ramondre is back in week 12, Mike Vrabel could decide, you know what, let me still go through and let me still give Ramondre Stevenson half the work. Rest of season, I probably prefer Rome Odunze. But it's just so tough saying that, knowing that Trevion Henderson is going to score 30 plus, or I'm not going to say he's going to. But it's a possibility that Hendo scores 30 points tonight. Tater trading Bijan for Jefferson. I know Bijan got sniped a couple times on the goal line, but he's averaging 20 points per game. And Justin Jefferson's averaging 14.5. What the hell are we talking about? You want Bijan Robinson. Mavium says 4-6 full PPR. Do I consider starting May for the matchup? Here, 1 second. I'm sorry, my fiance needs some help with something. Yeah, you have to start. No, never mind. You have Josh Allen. You got to start Allen. What are the projections with this? I mean, right now, you actually do have the Patriots favored by like 2 touchdowns, but they can run the ball a bunch. Right now, you have May higher lower 21.95 fantasy points tonight on Underdog. What is Allen at? Josh Allen is higher lower 22.05. So the projections are very similar. Maybe I'm very biased because I have Josh Allen on my own fantasy team, but yeah, I think I would go ahead. I think I would take Allen. Then wide receiver, probably Flowers. And then in the flex, probably Brees. Metcalf is super compelling as a start here, though. Because if you are looking at Metcalf, he just has an incredible matchup with Cincy. Now, Westies, here at running back, I would play RJ Harvey over Bucky Irving. And then in the flex, you're going to play I'd play him over Rachaad White, I meant. And then you're going to play Rachaad White in the flex anyway, assuming that you have no Bucky. But if Bucky does play, then obviously you can't go with Rachaad White. And in that case, you would go ahead and you would pivot instead to Tetero McMillan. Now, MX 7050 quarterback, you're playing Hurts. Tight ends, I'd probably go Loveland myself. I think you can make an argument for Zach Ertz, knowing that the offense projects just fine. Like the Commanders project score about the same amount of points as what you have with the Bears this week. And obviously you have no Terry McLaurin. But for me, it's just like Loveland's so much of a better player with so much more upside than you're ever going to get from Zach Ertz. And then no world I ever play Mark Andrews. I'm a Mark Andrews hater. You can't continue to only have 15 to 20 receiving yards a game and be somebody I want to put in a lineup. Now it's Archie trading away Adonai Mitchell and Quentin Johnston for Joe Burrow. So Adonai Mitchell's not worth a roster spot. I have no idea why he would ever be on your team. You have Dart and Goff. Expectations are that you're not going to get Burrow back until what, week 14? If you are guaranteed to be in the playoffs, I think you can go ahead and take Joe Burrow. If you weren't guaranteed to go in the playoffs, I'd probably prefer Quentin Johnston. Now, Cat in the Frat trading away Woody Marks and Tedero McMillan for Amari and Hampton. Running back would be starting Henderson, Genty. Wide receiver would be starting Waddle, Rice. You need two other players put in your lineup this week. You have no Olave, no Wilson, no Godwin, no Bucky, no Benson. So it's a very fair deal, don't get me wrong, but because you have like 4 injured players on your team already, I would probably say you are the one that cannot afford to go out there and trade for another injured name with Amari and Hampton. Now, Tommy says 12-team double flex, 8-2, any other trades or hold. JSN to Taylor, upgrade. Barkley to Diggs, downgrade. Points per game, JSN's at 22 this season. Jonathan Taylor's at 27. There's a world in which, like, I think it's crazy. Here, let me ask y'all in the chat real quick. What would y'all rather have just to gauge Jonathan Taylor value? To gauge exactly how much Jonathan Taylor is worth compared to the rest of the league. Would you rather have Jonathan Taylor or Jahmyr Gibbs and A.J. Brown? Jonathan Taylor or Jahmyr Gibbs and A.J. Brown? What side are you going with? Looks like everybody in the chat saying JT. So I think you can go ahead. I think you can take JT here. Now, Wesco is trading away Rashad White, Tyler Warren for Bucky and Shakir. What about this? Would y'all rather have Saquon Barkley and Nico Collins? Actually, no, I'm not going to say that. Let's move this next one. Rachaad White and Tyler Warren versus Bucky Irving and Khalil Shakir. Warren to Bucky, up to you. Rachaad White to Shakir, up to you. Here's the thing. You have Trey McBride with this team. So because you have Trey McBride, I would go ahead and I would go with Bucky Irving. But hypothetically, since y'all bring it up, who would y'all rather have in the chat? Saquon Barkley and Nico Collins or Jonathan Taylor? Saquon Barkley and Nico Collins or Jonathan Taylor? Let me know. Everybody's saying JT. Okay. Sorry, just trying to figure something out here. Got a little bit. I got something cooking in the oven. We'll just put it that way. This is stressful. Stressful. Okay. Now, Marcus, wide receiver, you play Stephon Diggs with no Kayshon Boutte. And then in the flex, I would probably play Breece over Devonta Smith still. Okay. D-Buck says, baby on the way. If you mean Jonathan Taylor, baby, possibly. That Morris kid says depth limited at running back. Bijan owner would take Puka or Jamar as well. What are your thoughts? Should we get more? Running back, you have Jonathan Taylor and then nobody and Woody Marks. Wide receiver, you have JSN, Puka, Chase. It's a start 8 format. So here's going to be the thing. No matter what, these are going to be flex plays. So really the only thing that's going to matter here will be points per game. So if the only thing that matters is points per game, because again, like I understand that technically you need a running back more than you need a wide receiver, but it's just depth in general. So I think you could go ahead and make an argument for either ends, but I do think that JSN outscores Bijan Robinson rest of season. And again, I think you're just going to have, like, your issue, in my opinion, isn't necessarily positionally based. I just think it's you don't have a ton of depth, but flipping a wide receiver for a running back's not changing that. Now, Dimney trading Brees and Jefferson for Jackson Smith and Jigba. Running back left over, you'd have Henderson, Genty, Jacobs. You have plenty of running back production, so yeah, I think you'd make that deal. Okay. Dylan, yes, we'll get over to the team reviews. I'm sorry, my guy. We just want to get through all the quick questions first, and then we'll pivot over and get to as many team reviews as we can before the game. Now, Aiden for the flex. We're going to start Trevion Henderson. Like, again, Henderson, must start name. If you have him, you put him in your lineup, and you don't think twice. Shaquille Oatmeal says, I'm 8-2, and I've been streaming quarterbacks all season. What are your thoughts? You have Rodgers, Flacco, Kyler. Looking at the waiver wire currently, best quarterbacks are like Fields, Lawrence, Stroud. So quarterbacks on waivers are garbage. So here's going to be the thing. If we are looking at if we're looking at the gap points per game wise from Nico to Chris Olave, it's not massive. It's Nico's averaging about 14.2 right now. Olave is currently sitting at 14.8. But if you do look at what we've had when it comes to the adjustment for Nico Collins, where if you remove the games in which Nico left early with that concussion, then they are pretty much identical. Nico's just slightly ahead of Olave. I think you can go for Herbert here. It's not a massive win by any stretch of the imagination. I would say, though, that in general, I don't like trading for the tier of quarterbacks that are like Justin Herbert because I think that that production is kind of replaceable when it comes to I don't know. Like when it comes to just playing the matchup. So I don't love trading for the range of like the mid QB1s like Justin Herbert. I'd prefer if you're trading for a quarterback to go for either a truly elite name or just focusing in on the streaming options. But this is a very fair price point to go and get Justin Herbert. I knew we got to log out, log back in. I apologize for that. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Let me pivot this over. Okay. So Shaquille O'Neal, like I said, I think you can do it. Typically, I don't love it, but it's a very fair price tag. Now, Drake May Lover here for the flex. You got to play Trevion Henderson. Actually, no, I'm sorry. You have Rashee Rice. While Henderson is a must-start name, your team is just a little bit too good for that. If you have Rashee Rice, I'd play Rice over Henderson. I want to get Henderson in for 99% of people watching this, though. Ivchar trading away Hampton and Michael Pittman for Jefferson. Running back, we have Henry and Genty. If you're not guaranteed to make the playoffs, yeah, I think you should make this deal. You should go ahead and get Justin Jefferson. But again, Amari and Hampton's probably going to be back in 3 weeks in week 13. And when that does happen, Amari Hampton very easily could turn back into a must-start running back every week. Now, Hando, for wide receivers, I think you play Ricky Pearsall. For the flex, actually, no, you don't even play Pearsall. What the hell am I talking about? I'm getting too excited. You play Zay Flowers. And then for the flex, you probably play RJ Harvey. Let me see if they have projections out for RJ Harvey. Yeah, it's a tough matchup against KC, but again, you're just in a spot in which with no Dobbins, it's an exciting player that's going to see volume. higher lower 73.5 total yards actually kind of seems low to what I thought it would be. Let's Kamani Vidal. Kamani Vidal's higher lower 79.5. I'm surprised to see Vidal project so well. What's Marks at? Good. Marks gets to play against Tennessee. Marks is at 80.5. So my simpleton brain would say that I want Harvey in here, but if you're looking at the projections would say Woody Marks, which maybe it's the correct play. I mean, again, in a vacuum, I would rather have RJ Harvey as a starter in Denver than I would Woody Marks as a starter in Houston, but specifically this week, you do have a really tough matchup for Harvey and you have a really good matchup for Marks. So I'm not going to fault you this week for deciding to go with Marks instead. Okay. Now, my name is Jeff, trading away Achane Metcalf for Nico Henry Myers. This is going to be Achane and Metcalf easily. Achane's in a different tier than these other guys. I mean, I have Nico on my own team. I would love to say Nico is that player that he was drafted in round 1 to be, but it's just not the case right now, especially with CJ Stroud with the concussion. Okay, now that Morris kid says, could do this instead of Bijan. What are your thoughts? Oh, yeah. I mean, if you could trade JSN for McCaffrey. Again, because like I said, I think realistically, you don't need to worry so much about running back versus wide receiver. With your team, I just think if it's a start 8 double flex format, sorry, I'm in the heat of that Jonathan Taylor negotiation. There's a lot going on right now. Okay. But anyway. Yeah, but so anyway, this all comes down, in my opinion, 2 points per game. And I think McCaffrey actually does stomp on JSN points per game rest of season. Like JSN so far this year is sitting at about 21.9 fantasy points per game. Whereas if you look at McCaffrey, McCaffrey's at about 25. And keep in mind with this, like, you've had no Brock Purdy either. I think the offense is about to get better and more trips to the red zone. But real quick, if you haven't already, let's go ahead, drop a like on the live stream. When we hit 300 likes in the stream, we'll go ahead and send out a bunch of free questions in the chat because I know we haven't sent out any free questions yet in the stream. So if you haven't already, hit that like button. Now, Smoggy Curl for the flex. You have no Alec Pierce. I think most weeks here you'd want to play Pierce, but instead you could go Tez Johnson or Trey Tucker. I'd probably plan on Trey Tucker specifically just because, one, you have the Myers trade, and then two, obviously you're in a really good matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, X-Man trading away Woody Marks, Romeo Doubs, and Gadsden for Tyler Warren and Quentin Johnston. Gadsden to Warren, I view that as an upgrade. I do need to move Gadsden back up our ranks now that it looks like that injury is legitimately just nothing. So let me go and do that right now for y'all. Why does it say Gadsden tight end 9? I have Gadsden ranked tight end 5. What the heck? Don't know why that's the situation, but anyway. But Romeo Doubs, Quentin Johnston upgrade, Gadsden, Tyler Warren upgrade. You're paying Woody Marks to get it done. We have Gibbs, James Cook, Bucky, Hampton. So Woody Marks will literally never hit your starting lineup. So yeah, I think you can go ahead and make this deal if you wanted. Now, Average Joe, running back, you're starting Genty, Judkins. Wide receiver, you're playing JSN, Drake London, and I probably would play Breeze because Breeze plays on Thursday. I'd put him in at running back and put Judkins into the flex just so we have some flexibility later in the week if we need to make a pivot. But again, never play your Thursday night options in the flex spot. Rev McSavage trading away Caleb and Tedero McMillan for Josh Allen. Why are these rankings on the site getting pulled in weird all of a sudden? It's saying I have Allen ranked 95 overall. I would make this deal in a heartbeat. I know Caleb's been better as of late, but it's been off the back of just two incredible matchups against Cincy and the Giants. Okay. Now, based multi, trading away Lamb, Loveland for St. Brown. Yeah, let me take a screenshot of this to send to the devs. Because this just broke all of a sudden. It doesn't impact how I'm answering questions, but still. Okay, but Lamb and Loveland for Amon-Ra St. Brown. Here's my thing. I really do think that this trade's just up to you. I have these wide receivers ranked effectively back-to-back. I think it's a personal preference type deal. Loveland's not worth much more than just the waiver wire pickup. Now that you have Luther Burden and Komet back in, I'd probably prefer the Loveland end of it just because I think the wide receivers are almost identical. But I wouldn't fault you either way. Bitter Hornet says, should we drop Tez for Caleb Williams off the waiver wire? Let me see. Yeah, you play Chase Brown here. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely pick up Caleb Williams. It's down to, would you rather drop Marcus Mariota or would you rather drop Tez Johnson? But especially now that you have Godwin back at practice, like I'm A-okay with you dropping Tez. Okay. Now, Beto says, hey, Mason, I'm 7-3. I absolutely love Jefferson's playoff schedule, and now I'm worried about the Bears matchup. Okay, so Caleb to Lamar, massive upgrade. Lamb to Jefferson, downgrade. Rome to Zay Flowers, lateral move up to you. So I think it's completely fine. If you really like the schedule for Jefferson and you really hate the schedule for the Bears, I'm not going to fault you for making this. But again, I think the main thing that we are looking at here is just you're primarily down tiering from Lamb to Jefferson and up tiering from Caleb to Lamar. But let me send you over a free team review, trade question, start sit question, everything. Bitter Hornet trading away Chase Brown, Tedero, and McMillan for Higgins and Jalen Warren. Chase Brown to Jalen Warren, up to you. Tedero McMillan to T. Higgins, up to you. I'd probably slightly prefer, actually, honestly, it's just completely fair. I think it's a personal preference type deal. Mark, here at quarterback, you play May over Herbert. Running back, you're going to play Dowdle. And if Bucky plays, you play Bucky. If Bucky doesn't, you probably go Kyle Monungai. Wide receiver, you play George Pickens. And then Ricky Pearsall versus Tedero McMillan is a very fair one. Sorry, need Jonathan Taylor. Here, flex Tedero McMillan or Ricky Pearsall. I think you can play it safe with Ted this week and then possibly go Ricky Pearsall next after we see him, as well as Brock Purdy. Now, Bitter Hornet trading Tez Johnson for Alec Pierce. I definitely prefer Alec Pierce over Tez Johnson. Now, Signup here for running back. I'd play ETN with Harvey in a tough matchup. And then in the flex, I'd probably play RJ Harvey. It's either going to be RJ Harvey or Stephon Diggs, where obviously Diggs gets the bump up with what you have with no Booty. Let me see what the projections are for Diggs this week. Diggs with no Kayshon Boutte against the Jets right now on Underdog is higher, lower, 56.5 receiving yards and 12.5 fantasy points. So, I mean, I think it's just going to be up to you there. Now, Hubdub is trading away Keon, Pearsall, Calvin Ridley for James Cook. Here's what you're doing. You're going into a Rolex store, and on your way in, you're picking up 3 turds outside and a stick. And you're telling the person behind the counter, hey, for that Rolex, I'll give you these 2 dog turds and a stick that I found. Keon Coleman and Calvin Ridley are the 2 dog turds, and then Ricky Pearsall is a little stick. Like, why the hell would the person in the Rolex store make this deal? If you can swindle them into it, if you're a master negotiator, then yeah, sure, go get James Cook. But I'm going to assume that's not happening, Chief. But yeah, it's James Cook here easily. Now, Zappo. Okay. Trading away Henderson for Harvey and Jennings. I think in general, I'd prefer Trevion Henderson. I just think the upside's going to be... And okay, Kyle's saying this is what's happening. Your rest of season ranks are now the same as the week 11 rankings for some reason. Yeah, that's what I sent that to the devs. Like something was happening weird with the rankings on the site. And I guess this is what it is. Thank you. Let me send this over to him. Because I noticed with all these little tags, is like, this looks just blatantly wrong. Okay. Trevion versus RJ Harvey and Juwan Jennings. I think I'm going to opt to go with the Trevion Henderson side. I just think you have a higher ceiling based off the offense that they're playing in. And I also think that Trevion Henderson's a better player. But it looks like we just hit 300 likes on the stream. So let me go ahead and send out a bunch of free questions in the chat. If y'all wanted to qualify to win free questions, it's really simple. All you got to do is drop a like on the live stream and then also drop your flockfantasy.com username in the live chat. But here real quick, let me answer these next 5 questions as y'all get those in. Manny, with this one, you're going to start Aaron Jones, Kamani Vidal this week. Wide receiver, you're going to go with the combo of Chase, Ladd McConkey. Tight end, you play Pat Frymuth. And then in the flex, you're going to go with Ricky Pearsall and probably Jacoby Myers. Dirty Milkers here for the flex between Kamani Vidal, Brees, and RJ Harvey. I'm an idiot, so I'd go Brees Hall despite the Jets projecting to be 2 touchdown dogs. Jordan trading away Barkley and Loveland for Benson and Bowers. Yeah, Chief, this is going to be Saquon Barkley for me. I don't think it's that tough either. It's JP. So, like, here's the thing with Benson. I drafted him a bunch of Underdog best ball drafts. I hope he plays well, but realistically, how could we know what to expect at all? HJP says point per completion, 6-point passing touchdown format, Purdy or Caleb for week 12. What's the Caleb matchup? Caleb plays against Pittsburgh. Pretty good spot. To be honest with you, I don't know until we see Purdy. I would say probably Caleb for now. Wide receiver, I'd say Tet for now. And then in the flex, I'd plan on going with Pearsall. Now, Ethical Cheetah for the flex, you're going to play Quinshon Judkins in a really tough matchup here. Swole trading Judkins, Marv, Nico, and Loveland for Jonathan Taylor. It's Jonathan Taylor, and it's not close. Okay. But let me send out some of those free questions in the chat now. Let's send this to Luca Dennis. Okay. Just looked you up on the site. I can't find you, my guy, unless I'm spelling this wrong. I don't know if you used code FLOCK when you signed up to the site. If not, you can add it to your account page. That way, next time you win something, I can find you. Let me send this to Mark2319. Just got you over that free start sit question. If you have anything else that you want me to take a look at, I'd be happy to look at it for you. Let's send this to Jinx real quick. Free start sit question. Is it double eyes? Jinx double eyes. Or I think so. Yeah, I can't find you on the site, my guy. I don't know if you use code FLOCK on your account page, but you can add it. That way next time, if you win something, I can find you. Just found you, Logan, and just sent you over a free start set question. Appreciate you hanging out with us in the stream. Let's send this next one out to Coley101. Just found you. Just sent you over a free start set question. Appreciate you hanging out with us in the live stream. Let's send this one out to Starry Knight. Just got you. Sent you over a free start sit. Appreciate you hanging out with us as always. But let me get back. We'll answer these questions. We'll rip through some team reviews as well. Okay. Bitter Hornet trading away Aaron Jones for Chase Brown. I'd rather have Chase Brown at this point for sure. Bitter Hornet trading Aaron Jones for Trevion Henderson. I'd take the upside with Hendo. Say it again. Here, quarterback Bo Nix versus Brock Purdy. I'd probably go Purdy in a better matchup than what you have with Bo Nix. And then at tight end, Gadsden versus Laporta. Gadsden back-to-back full practices. Laporta hasn't practiced this week. I'd plan on Gadsden for now. Okay, now big jogging here. We're trading away Chase Brown for Amari and Hampton. I would say if I was sending Chase Brown for Hampton, like you're taking on a lot of risk at this point, I would probably opt to hold on to Chase Brown with the additional news that we have of Joe Burrow coming back in. Okay, now Jay Boogie. Quarterback, you play Mahomes over Goff. Running back, you play Gibbs and CMC. Wide receiver, you play Rice and Jefferson in the flex. I would love to tell you to get Trevion Henderson in, but I'm not tough enough or mentally strong enough to tell you to play Trevion Henderson over Justin Jefferson. Teo says 15-5, this or Roman Swift for London running back depth over wide receiver depth. This or Roman Swift for London. I would prefer trading Roman Swift for London, I think. Yeah, especially when you have this many startable running backs as is. Okay. Now, Baby Jesus is starting Dowdle here in the flex as an auto start, and then Igbuka is the other auto start. Incredible team that Dowdle and Igbuka are your two flex names. Now, Beto trading away Woody Marks and Ramadunze for Ashton Genty. I would go ahead and make that move. Logan McCourt, quarterback. Give me May over Baker. Running back, we're going to go with Brees. And then if you were to put somebody in from the bench, it'd probably be Pearsall. But no, I think you leave that as is. Okay. Now let me move this back over and take a look at some team reviews here. So we're going to have to move this camera. This is from a dog says, what position and or player should I be looking to upgrade or seek for a trade? We just won an underdog matchup this weekend, and now I'm sitting one game behind to tie for second place in this league. Looking to make a big push to the end. It's a semi-dynasty league with draft picks for trading. Yeah, I actually looked at your league before this stream, and I had noticed that there are a bunch of weird things, like people trading away like future 8th and 9th round picks. So it's hard for me to know like how we should be. Oh, it's a 3-player keeper league. The league analyzer is telling us that you keep 3 guys here yearly. So I will say, as a general rule of thumb, one, I mean, Dynasty Fantasy Football is my bread and butter for so long. I went a decade almost of only playing Dynasty, absolutely loving it. It literally being my entire life. Like, y'all have no idea. Obviously, y'all like fantasy football a ton. Y'all are willing to hang out with me here on Thursday before the game. But you cannot comprehend how obsessed I was with Dynasty Fantasy Football. It was the only thing that I did for the longest period of time. The only thing I thought about. Now, with that being said, I hate the idea of in a 3-player keeper league, you can sell your future picks. Because it really just puts people in a position where it's like, oh, if you want to have a shot to win the league, you just have to be willing to sacrifice your next season. Which again, I don't like that. If it's a dynasty league, sure, but if you only keep 3 players here, it's more like a redraft format. Now, with that being said, we are the number 1 team in this league in terms of value on the roster. We are currently sitting at 5-5. We've scored, and actually, you know what? I think the league analyzer here is maybe pulling in. No, it's pulling in the correct values, probably. Or the redraft ones. Okay, but anyway, let's go ahead and let's take a look at this. So we have a lot of value on this team. Now, with that in mind, we're not necessarily in a spot in which we can just think about the fantasy football playoffs because we are 5-5. Now, we are having a slight issue with the site right now, pulling in my rankings. There's a little bit of a bug that we identified the devs are looking at right now. So ignore the exact ranks next to these players. But quarterback, we have Drake May and Jordan Love. So really comfortable spot to be in, right? I mean, you don't have May through his bye week already, so it does make sense you holding on to Jordan Love here just so you can have another quarterback to play when we have no May in week 14. I believe that's when the bye is. But Drake May, quarterback that we can start every single week with confidence. Running back, we have CMC as the elite RB1. We have Breece Hall, DeAndre Swift as quality running back depth. Wide receiver, we have Waddle, Adams, Tedero, McMillan, Jamison Williams. And then tight end, you have Aronde Gadsden. So there's not going to be much to discuss here in terms of moves that you could realistically make. The only thing that I would say is you are in a position where you have a good enough team to win this year that if you wanted to go and approach one of those rebuilding teams or those teams that should be rebuilding and send them Malik Neighbors, I think it could be something that you look at doing. Like, let's go ahead and let's look at the teams that are in the bottom of this league with their records that aren't playing for anything, right? Because Malik Neighbors is a quality keeper option. And honestly, you don't have that many keepers. So in a 3-player keeper league, like, I gotta understand you wanted to hold on to him. But if like this team here that has Ashton Genty, that's 3-7, that scored fewer than 1,000 points so far this season, they're averaging less than 100 points a game. If you wanted to go through and offer them Malik Neighbors for Ashton Genty, you could go ahead and look at doing that. It would still give you a viable keeper. Maybe that keeper's not as exciting as Malik Neighbors next season. Maybe he is. But it would give you a much better play for what you would have this week. Then going over and looking at this next team, this team has Barkley, Puka Nacua, and that's literally it. They're currently sitting at 3-7. If you wanted to offer them Malik Neighbors and like Tedero and McMillan for Puka Nacua, if there's any world in which they think that the Malik Neighbors keeper value makes that worth it for them, I would send the offer, see what they say. This team's 6-4. This team's 3-7 as well. If you wanted to offer them like Malik Neighbors and get back, like if you want to go Malik Neighbors and Breece Hall and try to get back Bijan Robinson, you go ahead and do that. Because you are 5-5, you have a good team. You're right there on the edge. I wouldn't fault you, especially if you win this week. Now, if you lose this week, maybe I'm not going to be as excited to go out there and make that deal where we sell the future long-term value to get points in right now. But if you win this week and you move over to 6-5, I think you're in a really good situation. And I know my rankings are messed up. The devs are looking at it on the site right now. Hopefully it is fixed ASAP. They got messed up like 20 minutes ago. I don't know what happened, but A-Dog Umph, I appreciate you and hope I was able to help you out in some way with that. But if you lose this week and you move to 5-6, honestly, I'd probably just ride it out with what you have it. But if you go to 6-5, or if you make the deal before this week where you can sell Neighbors to one of those 3-7 teams that's looking to next year, I think I would. Now, Ben Pink says first right now and clearly have a lack of flexes. It's a 12-team super flex start 10 dynasty tight end premium league. I got offered JT for Olave, a future first, second, and a third. Not sure whether to accept or go elsewhere with this team. Also worried about JK going to the IR. So right now we have the second most dynasty value here. We've scored the second most points in this league. We're 8-2, so we should definitely be focusing on how we contend right now. We don't have our own 2026 first, which makes us even more so willing to want to really go out there and really make the play to try to win this season. I will say that clearly your team needs a running back, but like you already mentioned, what we really need is just additional players that we can put in the flex because it's a start 10 format. So if we count out our starters, assuming everybody's healthy and assuming at the same time you have no bye weeks, you have Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts at quarterback. Running back, you have Jacobs, Dobbins. Wide receiver, you have Puka, Lamb, Olave, Terry, Sutton. And then you have TJ Hawkinson in at tight ends. So when you lose maybe a Chris Olave with the bye, when you lose maybe Terry McLaurin or J.K. Dobbins to an injury, it does put you in a very compromising position. Now, I will say if you're trading an entire rookie draft class, especially in the 2027 class, and I know a lot of people are excited about those picks, and you're moving Chris Olave for Jonathan Taylor, it maybe is going to put you in a position in which you're actually down on value come this offseason to whereas if you were to just hold those picks. Now, if we're going to go over and look at what we have when it comes to that Jonathan Taylor team, I think that it's an idea that's very interesting and right in line with a trade that we want to be making. The only thing that I would say with this, and this team here is near the bottom of the league with points scored, right? Obviously, this is a team that is looking to go through and looking to kind of burn it down. If you could pick up some like crap depth pieces that in a start 10 format could actually move the needle for you and look like somebody you could put in one of those flexes, but it's not going to have a lot of long-term value for a rebuilding team like this one, we would love to do so. So some examples of those types of players, Tez Johnson, Tyrone Tracy would be a better example. But if you could get him to throw in Tyrone Tracy into that deal, if you could get him to throw in Tez Johnson, I mean, that would be the main thing that I would be looking at. And of course, I think getting Jonathan Taylor is going to make a massive difference. You'll be the heavy favorite in your league. You have 2 elite level quarterbacks. But as you were already mentioning, the issue with this team is not just that you're in a position in which you need help at running back a ton with the J.K. Dobbins injury. You just need additional starters as well. So I wouldn't stop at just essentially flipping Olave and the rookie picks to go ahead and get Jonathan Taylor. I would also look to include coming back to you some of those just additional depth starters. And if you wanted to try to throw some rookies their way like Jalen Royals, Isaiah Bond, just those players that most likely will not be anything, but maybe there's a chance that they see a bump in value going into year 2, it would make literally no impact to our team whatsoever. And maybe the rebuilding team would be a little more likely to give you the short-term startable options. Somebody like Tyrone Tracy. But if you were to do anything else, I think you are now in the position where it's time to start pushing in. So if you don't want to make that big deal to go and get a Jonathan Taylor type player, I think that you would still be A-okay to go ahead and look to try to send those 2026 second round rookie picks and just try to get in some of those additional names that we discussed. It doesn't have to be exactly Tyrone Tracy, but similar type players that maybe aren't super exciting in the long term, but names that you could for sure put in the flex positions right now that those rebuilding teams wouldn't be interested in their long-term value. But I really appreciate you. And Really hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this, my guy. But I think, yeah, you should go ahead and you should try to push in to win right now with how good your team is. Okay. Now, let me move this over. See if the devs have any updates with the rankings. No, they don't. Not yet. Okay. Now, Butzer says 2 QB with defensive players. I wanted to try to get another solid quarterback to go with Goff. Any trade ideas? And what do you think of the team? Okay. Now, I'm not going to be able to speak anything on the defensive players end. We can obviously talk about what we have with the offensive side of things. We are second in this league when it comes to points scored. It's a 2 quarterback format, start 8 format. So offensively, realistically, you're not going out there and starting really more than 3 wide receivers ever. So if you're not starting more than 3 wide receivers ever, the wide receiver depth's not going to matter much. And I'm an idiot. We're not even showing this. So if the wide receiver depth's not going to matter much, then in general, when you get the ability to go through and sell a player like Keenan Allen, sell a player like Ricky Pearsall, to see that upgrade inside the starting lineup, maybe at quarterback like Goff, Aaron Rodgers, we would 100% want to do so. And another thing that you could look at doing with your team is, now that you have Dobbins injured, so RJ Harvey looks like he is somebody that you can actually put in your lineup. And you're going to get Bucky Irving and Amari Hampton back soon. Like, running back's expendable. Like, nobody's going to buy Keenan Allen. Nobody's going to buy Ricky Pearsall in a league like this. But you have the top end running backs with Taylor, Brees, Harvey. You have Chase, Lamb, Bauer. So I don't think I would make this type of trade right now. But long-term, the move that you need to be making is you need to go out there and upgrade a quarterback. You need to send the combination of RJ Harvey and Jared Goff, or Brees Hall and Aaron Rodgers, and go get a significant upgrade at quarterback to a team that needs help at running back. The reason I would not want to make that trade right this second, though, is just because if we are taking a look at your team, while in the long term, you are incredibly strong, here this week specifically, you have no Jonathan Taylor, you have no Bucky Irving, you have no Amari and Hampton. So you're starting Brees, Harvey, Chase, Lamb, Pearsall. You don't have much depth beyond that. Like, if you were to go through and if you were to trade away Brees Hall right now, or if you were to trade away RJRV right now, then you're going to have to go pick up like Kareem Hunt off the waiver wire, which maybe isn't something that we were wanting to do. So I would eventually look at going through and upgrading a quarterback by selling one of the running backs, such as Brees, Harvey, Bucky, Hampton. But I don't think you do that right now. I think you wait 1 week so that Bucky's officially back, so that Jonathan Taylor's through the bye, and you'd be in a really good position. But again, I really appreciate you and hope I was able to help you out in some way with this. Now, B Pelts with our next question says, have a lot of running back depth and we need to upgrade wide receiver. I'm 7-2, 1 game back of having a first round bye. What wide receiver should I target, or do you suggest going another route and upgrading quarterback or tight end? Overall, what do you think is the best move? So we are currently 7-3. I know you said you were 7-2, but the league analyzer says 7-3, and we played 10 weeks. We have scored the most points in this league, and we've almost scored 100 more points than anybody else. Jesus, I would start the Patriots over the Texans. I have to play against the Patriots defense this week, and I think the Patriots defense is probably the number 1 DST option, which is brutal. I don't want to play against them, but it sucks. Looking at what we have at running back, you're sitting with CMC, Jonathan Taylor. It's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. We have Amari and Hampton in the long term. You don't have a lot of running back depth. What's your depth here? Kareem Hunt? Nobody's going to be trading for Kareem Hunt. Nobody's going to be trading for Kyle Monangai. Wide receiver, you have Adams, Debo, Devonta Smith, Alec Pierce. So you have like 3 wide receivers to be excited to start every single week. We have Travis Kelce at tight ends. So I would say the biggest need that you have with your team is actually going to be tight end and quarterback. Like wide receiver depth's not going to matter. It's a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. If this waiver wire setup's actually true, where Tyrone Tracy's out there, go ahead and drop Kareem Hunt right this second and pick up Tyrone Tracy. And then all of a sudden, I would agree with you, and I'd say you actually do have a decent amount of running back depth. And if you can drop Hunt, pick up Tyrone Tracy, and then turn around and potentially go ahead and look at trading like Amari and Hampton and Jackson Dart to get yourself an elite quarterback, get yourself Mahomes, get yourself Lamar, get yourself Josh Allen, or try to send Amari and Hampton and Travis Kelce, get yourself an elite tight end, get yourself McBride, get yourself Bowers. I would love to do that, but I think that starts with you dropping Kareem Hunt and you picking up Tyrone Tracy. And then outside of that, I mean, it's a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league where the depth's not going to matter much at all. Well, at the same time, you have the combination of CMC and Jonathan Taylor. So you have the 2 best players in fantasy football, which is going to allow you, like you've already done, to score more points than anybody else in this league. But another thing that would be very important for you to go and pick up Tyrone Tracy for is McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor. Neither of them are through the bye week already. So you actually do need that additional running back starter over the next 3 weeks. Because while we're not maybe in a position in which we are in a really bad spot with, I mean, we have a ton of points scored, but it's not like we're 8-2. It's not like we're 9-1. We're 6-4, right? Or we're 7-3. So you still need to win some weeks over the next few weeks. So I do think that picking up a player like Tyrone Tracy is going to help you do that significantly. And then honestly, because you're 7-3 as well, if I were you, I honestly probably wouldn't make the Hampton trade. The only thing I would do with your team, to be honest with you, I love the setup, especially in this league format. Again, if you thought you had so much running back depth and you wanted to trade for an elite quarterback or an elite tight end, you can afford it. Don't get me wrong. But the only thing that I would really do if I were you is I would go ahead. I would just cut Kareem Hunt, pick up Tyrone Tracy, and then in a 10-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format where you are just absolutely loaded, I would simply just roll with McCaffrey, roll with Jonathan Taylor rest of season, and expect them to win you your league. But I appreciate you and hope that I was able to help you out in some way with this, but I honestly don't think you need much help. I think you just make that one waiver wire pivot and you're golden. Now, let's look at this for C Mac and Cheese. So sitting at 8-2, we're prepping for the playoffs. Really don't want to move any of my players. What should I be targeting on the waiver wire or drop from my team to help me in the playoff weeks? Thanks for showing the Danny crash out on the vlog. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious. Pure comedy. Appreciate my guy. Today's my birthday. Happy birthday, my friend. I know we are looking at it a day late, so happy belated, but can y'all please spam the chat happy birthday for C-Mac and Cheese? Ignore the league analyzer ranking right now. This is getting pulled in weird because there's a rankings bug on the sites. So ignore that, to be honest. And this is a 12-team, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. So very similar to the team that we looked at previously. Right now, we're near the very top of the league when it comes to points scored. We're 8-2, so we're a playoff team, and that's what we're primarily focused in on. And we have McCaffrey and Jonathan Taylor. I will say a big thing that I'd want to do is I'd want to drop Sean Tucker now that you have Buck Irving back practicing. Cut Sean Tucker and pick up a Byshell Tootin. I would cut Mac Hollins and I would pick up Keon Coleman. And also, I would consider cutting one of the tight ends, whether that's Theo Johnson or Cade Otton, and picking up Colston Loveland. I just think Loveland does give you a tremendous amount of upside for the fantasy playoffs if he continues to trend in the right direction. And then because it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, the last thing that I'm going to stress about is going through and making trades for the short term. Like, I'm not wanting to go out there and I'm not wanting to make a trade where we get a slightly better wide receiver right now, which is something that you 100% should look to do. Like, I think your team's about to struggle. You have to see CMC through the bye, Jonathan Taylor through the bye, Garrett Wilson is injured. So like the next few weeks are going to be rough. But by the time we get to the fantasy playoffs, there's a realistic shot that you have Daniels back in, you have Garrett Wilson back in, CMC and Taylor are still absolutely crushing. If this was a multi-flex league, I think you could potentially say, oh, okay, well, we should go out there and we should look at picking up an additional starter and maybe in a multi-flex league with how much this team needs some help with the depth, especially post Wilson injury. You should go ahead and you should look to tier down from one of the top level running backs like CMC or Jonathan Taylor to just build out the roster more so. But because it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league where you're currently sitting here at 8-2, so we're only worried about the playoffs, I don't want to do that. And I would rather leave this as is for now. And then hope that we get the injured players back in. I would just make those minor moves when it comes to the waiver wire. And then after that, I would leave this as is, to be completely honest. As again, it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format, so almost identical to the team that we looked at right before this. If you have a problem with the depth of your team, but you only start 2 receivers in a flex and you have the best 2 players in fantasy, it's just frankly not going to matter. And I would not want to go through and I would not want to trade away either one of the elite running backs to fill that depth. And those are really the only assets that you have here to possibly deal. So I would just make those waiver wire pivots, cut Sean Tucker, pick up Byshell Tootin, cut Matt Collins, pick up Keon Coleman, cut one of the tight ends and pick up Colston Loveland. And then I think you roll with the rest as is. But I really appreciate you and hope I was able to help you out in some way with this, my friend. And let me move over and see if we have any more fast questions that we got to get through real quick. This one is from Coley 101. Here, running back between RJ Harvey and Woody Marks. We looked at the projections previously, and they have Woody Marks as the better play. I think a lot of that is just to do with the matchup, where you do have an incredible matchup where Woody Marks gets to go up against the Tennessee Titans, whereas RJ Harvey is a really difficult matchup where he has to play, the Kansas City Chiefs. For me, I think RJ Harvey's the better running back. I think he's running behind a better offensive line and a better offense. So I think, again, Woody Marks is probably, and honestly, you're going to play Woody Marks in the flex, so it doesn't matter. You play RJ Harvey and Woody Marks. But Lely C, wide receiver, you're going to play I would go Rome Odunze over Ladd McConkey now that Gadsden's good to go. It's close, though. I think we can go back and forth on that. Tight end, I'd probably go Pitts, and then in the flex, I'd probably play Ladd. Phil, I would probably go Brees over Rachaad White. But I know we have some team reviews to do. we got about 10 minutes until kickoff. I got to record some clips for the Flock League, so I'm probably going to have to end this here. Obviously, I'll be alive after the game tonight, talking about everything that happens. I will be helping the fiance box up some hats to continue to ship out some hats for y'all. Please let me know in the chat if you've gotten a Flock Fantasy free hat lately. We're shipping out about 100 a day. But I want to recap this live stream by saying for tonight's game, if you have Trevion Henderson, for the love of God, make sure he is in your lineup. Make sure that he is. Phil says, was I supposed to get 3 hats? Did you get them in separate packages or did you get them in the same package? I think I should have sent you 2 hats in the same package. And then, dear God, if you got 3 hats in 3 separate packages, all in one package, okay, perfect. Then that was intentional. I got you that custom order sent out, my guy, in that case. It's very weird that you got it this past weekend because those custom orders where I was sending out like a bunch of free hats in a package, essentially just the people that I know that are always out here in the live streams with us and stuff that use the site a bunch. We sent out like 2-3 free hats a package. But I've only been sending out like 1 hat packages for the past few weeks. So really weird that you got it just now. But yeah, I was worried you got like 3 separate individual hat packages, which would have terrified me. But yeah, appreciate y'all hanging out with us. I will be back with the live stream after the game tonight. Hopefully Trevion Henderson does not play well, but he probably will. And hopefully Breece Hall plays extremely well, but he probably won't. But appreciate y'all. And yeah.